I think I've got it. It's a thing over here. I press this button, right? That does the thing? Is that it? Is that the one? Did I get it? Hey there, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be in your part of the world. It, it, Welcome back to another live stream. This is C Sharp with CSharpFritz. It's so good to see you. It's great to be back as we get ready to start the month of May. Spring is here, and well, at least in the northern hemisphere where I am, and we're ready. We're ready to start talking more about a new technology. Let's move into a new topic. And I want to spend the month of April talking about all the things we can do with Azure. We've we've spent many we're in the middle of the second year running this series of streams, and we've talked about building all kinds of different applications, web applications, Windows applications, Blazor applications, mobile applications. But we haven't really talked about deploying and getting it running in the cloud. I don't know if you know this, but Microsoft has a cloud thing happening out there. You might have heard of it. And we're going to talk about all the different ways that you can level up your application. Get it beyond just, hey, I got it running here on my desktop. I have it compiled and running in Visual Studio. We're at the command line. We're going to get it running somewhere where we can get it scaling to handle millions of users interacting with your application, and talk a little bit about some of those architecture decisions that are going to help you scale and allow everybody to use your application. So that's what's on the agenda here for the next few weeks. It's spring, so I cleaned up the facial hair a little bit. It feels good. And before I bring on the chat room here, it's so sunny in Philadelphia. Look at this. Um, Last night I was in wonderful Allentown, Pennsylvania, for Penn State. My Nittany Lions here. Penn State playing in the regional finals of the playoff tournament in men's hockey against those always tough Michigan Wolverines. These are two clubs that know each other. They're in the same conference. They're two schools that have a rivalry. Penn State and University of Michigan. Oh baby, there's a rivalry between those two schools, and to be playing a hockey match in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Winner gets to go on to the Final Four. In ice hockey, that's not the Final Four; it's the Frozen Four. To be playing for the right to move on to the Final Four in the nation. A lot of tension, a lot of spirit on both sides. My Nittany Lions raced out to a 1-0 lead. It was amazing, but ultimately fell not even a minute into overtime, 2-1. Ugh, to those always tough Michigan Wolverines. Congratulations, Michigan. Moving on to the Frozen Four in Tampa. I think it's 2 weeks out. Is when the final three matches are in Florida. It's going to be an amazing Final Four, Frozen Four. Quinnipiac, Michigan, Minnesota, and I forget who won the fourth spot. Michigan and Minnesota are the two Big Ten teams there. I forget who took the fourth spot, but it is going to be a tremendous finale there. Let me head over to bring on the chat room here. Let's say hello to the chat room. Right? Do I have that right? Is that it right there? There they are. There's the chat room right there. Let's say hello to some folks. Steven's here on YouTube. Hello to you in Australia. How's it going there? Wellington is dialing in from Brazil. How you doing there? Ronnie Swafford in Colorado Springs. A snowy Monday morning. Hope you're having a good one there in Colorado. Amiral, hello to you in Malaysia. Happy Ramadan to all. Yes. How come I'm starting the month of May? Not starting the month of May. What month of May? How come I'm starting the month of... Simon says, how come I'm starting the month of May? Right here. No. It's the end of March. May, I've got some... I did say May at first. Sorry. in April, we're going to be starting. We're going to be covering all of these Azure topics. May, I've got some interesting things. I've got some interesting things planned for May. My apologies if I did say May up front. Let me see here. Narnia Expert. Hello, hello. It was an amazing overtime game. My goodness. You're from Colorado Springs too, but didn't notice the snow outside. Look outside. It's a little bit snowy out there. You might be interested. Let me set the timer here. 40 minutes for AMA to get us started. This is an Ask Me Anything segment. You have questions about .NET, about Visual Studio, about Azure, other Microsoft developer technologies, drop them in chat. Happy to answer them. Bring up some samples and talk along the way here. Make sure that you're comfortable and you know and understand what's going on and what we can do with .NET, with C#, and some of these Microsoft technologies that are going to make you more productive, raise your career a little bit, and hopefully happier then too. Let me get some music playing in the background here while the chat room starts chiming in over there. I'm going to play Stream Beats, of course. This is music that is DMCA free, royalty free. You can listen to it from wherever you'd like, on any streaming service you like. You can even download the songs if you want to have them playing in the background. All of this is available from streambeats.com. There's lots of different genres available. I like to listen to the instrumental, upbeat, tech-sounding music. This is Synthwave is the name of this playlist, and you can find the music on Amazon Music, Apple Music, or Spotify, like I am here. Check it out, streambeats.com. Thank you so much to Harris Heller and his team of creators for putting together this music we're listening to today. Hello to you, Tez the Fez in sunny UK. It's always sunny in Wrexham? My goodness, Wrexham having a fantastic weekend in football this weekend. Big win for the men's side against York City, and the women's side defeating Connah's Quay Nomads. Amazing for undefeated women's side on Wrexham, advancing now to the playoff for promotion. Really cool to see. My gosh. Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney have brought a ton of attention to that club, whether it's the men's club, the men's side, the women's side, the younger kids that are graduating, moving on into a more professional football experience. Tremendous to see how they've reinvigorated that club, and by club I mean all the teams supported by the club. Really amazing to watch that engaged of an ownership group, helping not just a sporting organization, but a town, rebuilding the stadium, rebuilding that club. Really great stuff to watch. If you haven't seen the documentary, Welcome to Wrexham, check it out. It's gotten me very interested in watching UK football. Fantastic stuff out there. So, Tez the Fez, hope you're having a fantastic day. Afzal, how you doing there? You're a WPF.NET developer. Is there anything for you in Azure? Sure. So, consider, if you're building a WPF application, WPF, Windows Presentation Foundation, that's a native application that runs on a Windows desktop machine, Windows laptop as well, but on a Windows workstation. You may be building that and having a client-server type of experience to start, connecting into a database, a API service, something that's somewhere inside your own network. Well, if you've got an interesting experience there that you need to start to share across multiple offices, multiple organizations, publish so that folks on the internet can use it, where are you going to house that database, those services that it interacts with? And when you start to scale up and you see more interaction happening with your application, and you need to start to introduce queues and service buses and other architecture elements that are going to allow your application to be responsive while those back office processes sync and deploy and build out the content for your application, that everybody else needs to see, those architecture concerns you can offload to Azure and let it grow and build and manage some of those interesting things. I'm not even touching the tip of the iceberg with some of the cool artificial intelligence capabilities that you can add into your WPF application. Text recognition, object recognition, audio detection and transcription. Tremendous set of features that you can do there. Plus, now with OpenAI features that are available in Azure, you can send it blocks of text to summarize, interact with. You can set it up almost as your own expert service to mine data inside of your own documentation and answer questions as an expert for you about it. Tremendous stuff that you can add into just a standalone WPF application when you're ready to level up and introduce additional features, scale out to more folks, and have additional back-end services. Thank you for that question. SF Salve over there on YouTube. Really appreciate it. We're going to go about 34 minutes here of more discussion, more chat over here, more AMA. How you doing there, Ozzy Trady? Yeah, sounds like a lot of folks from Colorado Springs here. PSOD is here on Twitch. You actually live 10-ish away from Wrexham. Great to hear me talking about it. Oh, my goodness. I will admit, I've been hanging out on the website for the Wrexham store, trying to get my hands on a jersey. And every time that I hear, there's shirts available, and I refresh, not there. Like, oh. So I am trying to get my hands on a Wrexham shirt. I'd love to get a Wrexham hat. My gosh, you've seen me wearing the hats. BSOD. It sounds like the folks in the town are having an amazing time this season. Like I said, with both the men's and women's sides there, they're doing tremendous. How you doing there, Badger? Good to see you on YouTube. Michael Bond on YouTube says, "Hi, Fritz. I'm really curious if there's a free database hosting option in Azure, even if it's the most minimal amount of bandwidth, storage, etc." Absolutely. Check out, there is an Azure SQL instance that you can set up for free. And I'm happy to talk about some of the free services. There's a ton you can get for free on Azure. It is ridiculous, some of the things that you can get for free. But Azure SQL, there is a free instance that you can get. Create a free account. Looking for it here. So 10 DTUs with up to 250 gigabytes of storage. A quarter terabyte. Are you kidding me? For free. Free for the first 12 months. After that, it's like $15 a month for the database at that point. But I thought there was an always free instance as well. I'd have to go digging a little bit further for it, but the first 10 months being able to get Azure SQL for free is crazy. Quite crazy how good that is. DevFlow.io on YouTube asks, does .NET MAUI have a drag and drop UI like WinForms? It does not. And that's something we've definitely heard and is under consideration. The folks who are working on Visual Studio have absolutely heard that, and you can do things with Blend to get there. It's a slightly different syntax than WPF, but you can do stuff to get there. Hat is the Git Talk hat. It's not a GitHub hat. No, it's GitHub hat. My Games on YouTube says, "Hi, I'm a C# desktop application developer. Is there anything for me in Azure services?" So, like I was just saying previously about WPF, same goes for you. All kinds of things that you can light up as you scale your application and need that additional architecture. My goodness, if you've seen my other streams that I do on Twitch, I'm working with an application that I've been building, migrating it to Azure SQL, and I've been able to scale up and down the size of my database in minutes, allocating, with no downtime, allocating a much, much bigger database with faster disk, and then scaling it back down when I'm done using that additional set of processor and faster disk resources to a smaller disk that is more like what I'm going to be doing, using on the day-to-day basis on all of those. Really great stuff. All kinds of capabilities that you can get into there. And today we're going to focus on app service, where, quite frankly, if you have back office operations, data aggregation processes that you need run, you can load a container into app service that it doesn't need to have a website front end, but you can run a container out there that'll do some of that back office processing for you. Azure Digital Twins is out there? Absolutely. Aussie Trady says, app services sound like Docker microservices. App service can run containers, but it is also capable of running other Windows and Linux applications. So you can install containers out there, which means you can run them as microservices. However, there's a better option for running microservices than app service. You can do it, but there are other services that are available out there on Azure that are better optimized for that. Azure Functions can certainly behave that way, but so can Azure Container apps. Azure Container Instances can do that as well. So there's a couple of options out there. I had a flow chart that I picked off out of the documentation that I wasn't sure if I was going to show. I think we'll get into that as well. You're building a message queue system with SignalR. Very cool, Sokar. On YouTube says, token authorization with Web API with message persistence with SQLite and YARP. Whoa! That's pretty... Why SQLite? You've got all these very big, high-scale architectures, and then file-based SQLite in there. Are you crazy for building yet another event message queue? Why not wire up to Event Grid or Service Bus? Or if Azure queuing is very responsive and capable, putting SignalR with one of those technologies, Event Grid or Service Bus, those are the two I would consider. Azure Queue is a little bit too simple for something of the size that you're building. But I question when somebody says I'm building a piece of architecture like that, general purpose architecture, I question it because there's a lot of really smart folks that have built other architectures out there that you can add on to and configure to serve your needs. What will make yours unique and help drive that business decision? You can't even get tickets for games in Wrexham anymore, BSOD on Twitch says. If I ever come across a spare hat, oh my goodness, that would be very kind. You can get so much for free, Ronnie says on Twitch. Ronnie uses Logic Apps, Service Bus, and Blob Storage for less than $5 a month, right? App service you can run for free. There's, of course, limits to it, but you can run for free. Service Bus, you can pass millions of messages through for free. And Logic Apps, you only get charged per execution. So, yeah, there's a first 12 months SQL for free. So, gotta run. Have a good one there, Ronnie. Thank you so much. Sokar, message persistence per topic message type. Yeah. Service Bus can do that for you also. Let me know. I'm not going to be getting to Service Bus today, TG, but we will be getting to it. One SQLite separately. Still, SQLite is a file-based database. That means in order to write to the database, you need to be able to lock that file. That's the way disks work. If you have multiple if you have multiple things that are attempting, and I'm using things generically here, but if you have multiple objects, whether it's different requests, different connections being created in the same application, multiple applications, multiple services, trying to access that SQLite database at the same time and write to it. Only one can write to it at a time. That's so you need to consider that SQLite needs to be run in a singleton type of pattern, because only one thing can write to disk at a time with it. That's what makes services like MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB, SQL Server, DB2, Oracle, where you have a service you send your command into, and it handles that, the queuing and the race conditions around it, and then writes to disk. That's what those services do, is manage and handle that writing and persistence to disk. SQLite, as a backing database for a native application, whether it's mobile or native on Mac OS, Linux, Windows, that's great, because only one person is using the application at a time. But behind a service, or something that's going to be high scale, like a message broker architecture like you're describing, I think you're going to run into racing and locking conditions there. Humongous Fungus, how you doing there on Twitch? Good to see you. Hello to you in Czechia. Do I know whether it's possible in Azure DevOps services to display HTML in work item details view? Work item details view. Display HTML. I don't think so. I haven't spent much time with DevOps, but my understanding is it's just text that you can display there. I would need to spend more time researching. It's been a long time since I've looked at work items in Azure DevOps. Beyond just being assigned content and returning it. Robert on YouTube. How you doing there, Robert? Yeah. Is there an option to have Web API with Blazor, WebAssembly, and SQLDB on Azure? Always for free, just for dev and test. Small apps. Not always for free. So Azure Static Web Apps will give you a... Well, if you're doing ASP.NET Web API, you're doing... You're going to be an app service at that point. App service can run for free. There is a basic version that runs for free. But that SQL database, there's going to be the first 12 months of your account, you can get it for free. Beyond that, it's like $5-10 a month for the same instance size database, but not always for free. So that SQL database is the catch. Storing, processing data takes a little bit of power, and I don't think there's a SQL database that you can get always for free. Looking at the Azure free tier, there's a whole page of here's all the things that you can get for free. But Azure Cosmos DB, you can do the Postgres API and work with Azure Cosmos always for free with 25 gig of storage. So that's not going to be SQL Server, but it'll get you relational database interaction. That might be a little bit closer to what some folks are looking for in a relational database, but that you can do for Robert. So appservice will get you ASP.NET Web API, hosted Blazor WebAssembly, and then if you do Cosmos DB with the Postgres APIs, you're going to have that interaction and capability. Michael Bond on YouTube says, I've actually been testing my app with appservice and a SQLite database, but it's not going to be appropriate when you start rolling it out beyond just you. Yeah, right. Testing and working with SQLite as an initial, as a gateway to figure out, hey, is this going to work for me? Sure, absolutely. That will get you started. As soon as you have multiple users connecting and working with that data, especially writing to that data, multiple users writing concurrently, you could run into a lock condition. Same thing with Access database or JET databases. Unless you have something that's as a singleton in front of that, managing the right interactions to it, you could run into right collisions. I got into a nasty argument with folks on Stack Overflow about using Access Database for many users behind a web application. Don't complain to me. That's the way the disk works. Sorry. TG on YouTube asks, is Azure Functions template the only way to create your own Azure service from Visual Studio? No, you can create Azure services from Visual Studio using the appservice templates. There's other templates in there that you can right-click, publish, and choose different things. If you're building a Functions app, well, there's a handful of templates in there you can choose and build with, but there's several different ways to do that. But Azure Functions is not the only way to do that. Tez the Fez on YouTube asks, can you have multiple web apps in a single app service, and how is that structured in Visual Studio for publishing? So I need to take some notes. I purposely didn't want to... I purposely didn't create notes for today's stream because I wanted to go through and talk about and feel out where we wanted to go with this. I'm not one of the people who normally talks about Azure. So this is a little new for me too. So I know my way around it. I know how to break things. I know how to get into trouble and how to get out of trouble. But I want to make sure that I hit a couple of these different things here. So there's questions about free tiers, particularly a free SQL database, templates in Visual Studio. How do I choose an Azure service for me? We'll get into that. And then app service versus app service hosting plan is really what you're talking about there, Tez the Fez. So an app service is one website, one application, one container that is running, and you can create copies of that. Now, you run that inside the scope of an app service. Think of an app service as the equivalent to a machine that can have multiple websites, multiple applications running on it. So with an appropriately sized app service host, you can host at the smallest 10 applications inside that app service host. So if you have 10 little test websites that you want to run that don't get a lot of traffic, that have some aggressive caching built into it so that they can handle workload, you're going to be in great shape. Absolutely. You can host that for free. Free. You have a little bit more that you require of that? All right, well, you might need a bigger app service that's going to take and require more resources to interact. But you can absolutely do that. Azure SQL Basic is estimated at about $5 a month. Yeah, that's right, Michael. So when you scale down, and if you don't need a lot of space, if you do want to be able to work with a small database for testing, yeah, $5. For the size that I've been testing and working with ClipTalk on my other streams, $15, $20 a month. American, of course. So I can't speak towards other currencies. DevFlow.io says, I don't understand when someone will need a NoSQL database. So when you think about relational databases, relational database is really optimized for being able to separate and reduce redundancy, right? I have a record of customers in a customers table. And when I create my orders records, the orders record just points back to the customer. It says, oh, Fritz is ordering the bananas, the oranges, the apples, and the customer is customer ID 1, and over here in the customer table, there's one record. When I go to print that, when I go to turn that into a record to send over to the fulfillment folks so they take the fruit that I've put into my order and ship it out, well, it has to join all those records together because actually those fruit records are sitting in a products table. But here's the deal. When that product changes, when that customer record changes, Fritz isn't living in Philadelphia anymore. Now he's living in Cleveland. You just broke those older orders that say that I ordered from the shop here in Philadelphia. So what you do when you denormalize is you take the contents of those fields and you put them all in one record, and now you don't have to do joins. Now you can select one record that has the hierarchical data attached to it in JSON format typically, sometimes XML format, sometimes other formats, but you bring that all together as one record so that order record, instead of connecting out to a customer ID, to an order product, order line items set of records that connects out to the products with shipping addresses all foreign key connected, you now end up with one order record that says Jeff Fritz, here's the shipping address, here's the products, all in one record. It is one record select to return, and it ends up running much faster. Now, writing that record ends up being a little bit more intense, but that's not what you're optimizing for. When you do this type of thing, you're optimizing for the future read of that document. And that's where NoSQL really shines, because you're not just bringing back records from 5-6 different tables that you would normally join into, and there's fantastic reporting systems that will help you do that. But you're also reading from one record. You're not locking a block of records in a half dozen tables. One record read, one record written, and it comes back extremely fast. It's great stuff. Try it out. There's lots there that you can learn from it. How you doing there, Thindoll on Twitch? Good to see you. Is it Khorshid? Hamza asks, could Entity Framework work with Cosmos efficiency? With efficiency or efficiently? I know there's folks on the Entity Framework team that are always working on performance, and they want to make it a great experience with Cosmos. And they're always improving it. So what are you looking for help with there? MDS Ubuntu on Twitch, how you doing there? Thindoll asks, would you agree that app service would be somewhere between running your own server and hosting at a normal web hotel where you'd FTP your PHP files or whatever? Absolutely. If you think about what's involved to build and deploy your application, on the one side, you're building and managing your own server. You're managing all the updates to the hardware, the operating system. Let me get into that question as we're talking here. Let me get into that as we start talking about app service. But I want to get to more of these other questions here. That's a great topic for us to dig into further on the other side of the AMA. Yes, exactly. TG on YouTube asks, can you confirm if Cosmos uses NoSQL? It does. You can absolutely use NoSQL. It's a MongoDB backed database that you can pivot and use, and it has all the same APIs and capabilities there. So, yes. Yes, and that is more of a document type database. NoSQL has many different implementations, and I particularly focused on a document database there. But there are other NoSQL types of implementations available that can help you, right? Graph databases, horizontal column databases, all kinds of very interesting things. SQLDB is focused on clean data structure and how data is related. Yes, SQL database is focused on relational database structure. So folks think immediately to third normal form. We're not repeating data points. We've got a place for all the data in their own tables and things. So, yes. So, nice use case. Oh, thank you, DevFlow. It seems NoSQL is good for prototype or freelance. If it is, no. No. There's many, many more things that you can use NoSQL for. And a lot of the services that you interact with on the internet use NoSQL types of databases. They store and organize data in ways that are optimized for the way that they read data so that you can interact with that data faster. So, how you doing there, Napalm? Thank you. But my last night my daughter was playing in the hockey pep band for Penn State. It was great to see her playing with the band, and yeah, it was a great time. So, SQL is also better for transactions and concurrency. You are correct, Crypto Wolf. I didn't want to dive too far down into pros and cons of different database structures, but I mean, ACID compliant database, that's what SQL gives you. So there's pluses and minuses to every database architecture. Graph database is going to do amazing things to select out related records. SQL takes a little bit of time. Takes a little bit more time. Now, by a little bit more time, I mean microseconds longer. So, like, don't be confused when you see folks say, "Oh my gosh, this took five times as many microseconds as that other thing did." You're talking about microseconds. That's the micro performance benchmarks of lines of code taking microseconds. Get back to me when you have a full system working. And then we can figure out ways to optimize. Because I can guarantee before you get to, well, I want to choose this line of code structure versus that, there's other things you can optimize first. How do you index columns in NoSQL databases? Same way you do in SQL databases. Create index and point it at the various features you want to index. So, yeah. They're in JSON documents, and you point to the fields inside there, index these things, and it will index them. Yeah. So, Findall says, write seldom, read often. Absolutely. Yep. But that means you need to handle your data consistency. So, let me see here. Yeah. All right. We've got about 8 minutes left here. So, right. And now I'm forgetting the triangle of CQRS architecture. That's how long it's been since I've talked about CQRS. It's been and talking about that architecture. But those are things that you start considering as you break up your application, so that you can scale pieces of it at different size as appropriate. So there's the stream elements messages there. Thank you. I appreciate that. How do I handle staring at the screen, not getting anything done these days? I wear blue blocker glasses here, like my gunners, that we're going to put on here in a minute to start talking about some of these things. And we're even going to do a couple test deployments here. We'll even scale some things up and down and see how they work out on appservice and talk about that. And we'll start talking a little bit about functions and configuration today as well. So, lots to see going on over here. The Twitch chat sync on YouTube is pretty cool. Glad you like that, Crypto Wolf. Yeah. Restream did a nice job with that, having a bot that is able to cross-post messages to between the locations, so that you're chatting with each other between the services, not just here in the box over my shoulder, but also right there in chat. You can see what folks are saying. Let me see here. Sharafuddin on YouTube asks, how can you use 2 projects in appservice? One for Blazor WebAssembly and .NET 6 for Web API. So there's 2 things going on there. You can host You can host WebAssembly inside your ASP.NET application. You can do that. But you can also use two app service instances in the same app service host. So they're sitting right next to each other, effectively on the same machine, even though you can't reach over to each other, and you certainly can't reference and say, oh, this app is on port 9 and that app is on port 8. Go connect to them. You can't do that. But they're running in the same with the same shared processor and memory resources, and they can talk to each other out there. Aussie Trady says, got ChatGPT to teach how to connect it to IoT control robots with a permanent loop and override to its safety system in C#. And to override to its safety system. You're into edge devices and large AI systems, so it wasn't ChatGPT's fault. I'm glad you're learning and enjoying that. That's awesome. How you doing there, Zulius? Good to see you. TG says, I assume today's topic about app service means Azure services. Yes, Azure app service. How you doing there, Madi? Good to see you. There is an app service plan? Yes, and it can contain multiple app services. That's correct. That's correct, Crypto Wolf. I'm going to get my gunners on here. I am an influencer and right. Gunner sends me glasses to try out to wear and show off on social media. I have problems with my eyes like many other folks, so this helps me with how I stare at screens for a lot of the day. So, Tyndall asks, can you front two services with entirely different tech stacks behind a YARP application? I think the answer is yes, but I have zero experience. Correct. So the term YARP has been dropped here a couple times. I'm not going to show YARP today, but YARP is yet another reverse proxy. That's an acronym for a proxy service. Think of it like a router, where a request comes into it and it decides where to send that to multiple services that are connected to it. YARP is a reverse proxy, that front door routing type of service that will send requests to multiple services that are connected to it, to the other side of it. So it listens on typically a web address and domain name, or many domain names. It inspects requests and at high speed hands them off to a series of services that are connected to the backside of the reverse proxy. Consequently, you can connect any network-facing technology application into the backside of the reverse proxy. It doesn't have to be ASP.NET. It can be a PHP application. It can be a Ruby application, a Node application. Doesn't matter. It just has to have a network answering service that YARP can route into. The Restream bot, it's quite an accomplishment to trick ChatGPT to get around it. Yeah. Moises on YouTube asks, what is the best way to continually sync a SQL database with a NoSQL database? I would set up some sort of an event grid. Event grid, a service bus, so that instead of doing a direct insert into your SQL database, or a direct update, or a direct delete, you're passing that command into the event grid, into the service bus, into whatever that topic is that's updating your database. And you have multiple subscribers out there that are receiving those messages so that it's updating both at the same time. That would be the way that I would do it. There's other ways to do that with triggers that can send messages out, to set up queues that fire additional messages. There's additional ways to do that, but I would stand up an external piece of architecture that would replicate and manage the two together. What is a Microsoft MVP, asks Madi on YouTube. What did they do? How to become one? Check it out at mvp.microsoft.com. MVPs are, gosh, they're the original influencers out there. You've seen influencers for all kinds of brands, not just tech brands, but consumer product brands. Microsoft MVPs have been around since the late 90s. And these are influencers. These are folks that Microsoft has recognized for contributing and managing tech resources for the greater tech community. Whether it's they're a speaker at conferences, they help manage user groups, they write blog posts and create videos. These are folks who create and manage and deliver a lot of content out there that help their consulting businesses. They write books, they generate, and they've got training videos on YouTube. But they provide these resources for you to learn more about Microsoft's products. So Microsoft wants to connect with them and make sure that they get appropriate feedback from them, and they also get to share and enable those folks who are writing the books, videos, blog posts, and whatnot to have that early insight into what's going on, what's coming down the pipe, so that they can continue building great content for you out there to be able to learn about Microsoft products. So the short of it is, it's Microsoft's influencer program. Folks can become MVPs by going to mvp.microsoft.com. There's a form there that if you know somebody at Microsoft, if you know another MVP, they can fill out and nominate you. You get a form that's sent to you to fill out that has information about how we can get in touch with you, the credentials that you have, what the things that you've created and published that are of note that Microsoft should be aware of to bestow on you the MVP award. And there are folks that have been MVPs for 10, 20 years because they've built and they've established a series of content that is very well respected. So check it out, mvp.microsoft.com. We're out of time here on the AMA, but I'm happy to go through and answer a few more here. Can SQL Server talk to a Cosmos DB from a trigger? There's ways to do it. I don't recommend it, but there's ways to do that. And I don't want to go too far off the rails here, but take a look how you can write native code that interacts, and you can link other services. There's a couple of options there for you. How do you use Azure App Service with Docker? Yeah, let's talk about containers. We'll talk about that as well. Absolutely. We'll get into that, Brian, on YouTube. Thindall kind of wants an MVP, but you need to do something that warrants one first. So we've awarded MVPs for live streaming, for YouTube content creation, TikTok content creation, but it needs to be consistent and of distinguished value. So, how about Xamarin applications? What about Xamarin applications? KJOS on YouTube. What about them? Hello! Oh my goodness, it's my friend Ellieface here from Twitch. Quick question for the AMA. Can I elaborate on horse math? Sure. So, if you ask horses to count, first off, they've got 4 legs, 1 tail, 1 mouth. It's important to know the difference between the horse's mouth and the horse's tail. The food goes in one end, comes out the other end. 4 legs. Don't let them get near you because they got a lot of power. 1,000-pound animal getting near you, you can have problems. If you ask the horse to count, they'll start to paw the ground, right? And my thoroughbred knows how to count. That's crazy. But it does. So, be aware. 4 legs, 1 face, 1 tail, 2 ears, 2 eyes. Yeah. Be afraid if you don't know what you're doing around them. Don't walk closely around the backside because if they don't know who you are, they will kick you. And as somebody who's been kicked, don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. Yeah, humongous fungus. I have 3. Yes. How do you make Xamarin dynamic? What do you mean by dynamic? Help me out there. Help me out there. What does that mean? I see the giggling over there. I see that. You're welcome, Steppen. So, but what do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean by making Xamarin dynamic? Help me out with that. So, I'm sorry to hear that. I think you're going to have problems if you want to build native applications in the future and want to take advantage of some of the cool capabilities that are being built and deployed for .NET MAUI. So, what do horses have to do with JavaScript? Asks Narnia Expert. So, there's a gimmick that I do on my live stream where I joke that out back, the horses, they're right out back. You can't see them, but they're just on the other side of the circuitry there. They're on the other side. They're at the barn out back. I don't have a barn out back. But when they hear the word JavaScript, they neigh just like from Young Frankenstein, and whenever they said Frau Blucher, the horses, they neigh. But yeah, that's the joke. That's the ongoing gag. Just like we don't have time for Matt Damon, and we've bumped him from the stream. So, let me take a look here. I was having problems with my. Yeah, good thing I checked this first. I was having problems with my display. I upgraded the OBS here, and I shouldn't have, because baby did it break stuff. But I'm glad I checked that first, because yeah, there we go. We're good. There we go. We're all set with that. Console log nay. That's right, humongous fungus. Let me see here. You updated OBS and things went boom. Yeah. Xamarin dynamic in animation and responsive. I'm sorry, I still don't understand what you're looking for help with. Folks were asking about, let's talk about free services here first. Let's talk about free services on Azure first before we get into too much of what you can do, what you can't do. I've got some notes here on some of the other things that folks were asking about. Let me bring up the, so I don't have that running. So which one is it? I think it's this one. I think I have the right set. Do I have the right scene over here? I think I did it right. It's over here. There we go. All my Stream Deck buttons changed as well, which was weird that updating OBS changed my Stream Deck buttons. But there we go. Folks are asking about what can you get for free on Azure. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to do anything on Azure. I want to be able to test and tinker first. And can I use a free tier to get into some things? There's a bunch of services that are available free out here that you can get involved with. I'll paste a link to that here in chat. There we go. So, right off the top, come on, you had that great user interface there, and you put me into... No. Don't stop it. I like that view. Start there. There's services that you can get free for the first 12 months that you have the service, and there's other things that are always free. You can run Linux VMs. There's basic VMs. So it's a small machine. You can run an entire month for free. I mentioned Azure SQL Database. You see it right there. Blob storage for the first 12 months. You can get 5 gig of locally redundant storage. 20,000 reads, 10,000 write operations per month. Free. Now, that sounds like a lot. When you break that down, that's less than 1,000 of those operations a day. Be aware, how much you are reading and writing, because you can break right through that. At which point, you'll receive a minor, right, a small charges, but you're using more than what was allocated. Cosmos DB, you get 1,000 request units per second with 25 gig of storage, always free. That's really cool. You get one of those per subscription, and it's always free. App service, 10 web, mobile, or API apps with 1 gig of storage and 1 hour of compute per day. So this is where a static, right, or a highly cached web application can do quite well on app service. Azure Functions, your first 1,000,000 requests. 1,000,000 requests. I don't know. Do people still do the Dr. Evil thing? Free. Event Grid, first 100,000 operations per month. Always free. Okay? Show me the always stuff. Azure DevOps, 5 users with unlimited Git repos. Always free. Kubernetes service. Always free. Now, that's the service. The underlying things that you're managing that run on it, you pay for those. But the service, free. Azure Lighthouse. Manage service providers Zero Trust for management and governance, always free. Azure Managed Applications and the Service Catalog. To acquire services with the catalog of approved cloud offerings for management and governance, free to publish, always free. There's tons of stuff here that you can use. 1,000 to 5,000 1,000 to 5,000 transactions for specific mapping and location insights features, always free. Fantastic stuff that are going to get you started and get you off and running here, okay? Check it out. Key Vault, 10,000 transactions of RSA keys for the first year, free. Now, depending on how you use Key Vault, you may never hit 10,000. So, machine learning. Develop and run R and Python models on your platform of choice. Always free. Always free. Fantastic stuff to check out in there. Service Bus. This is the one that I use a lot. 750 hours, 13 million operations for the first 12 months. Free. And even after that, it doesn't cost a lot. Pennies to run that. So, 5 audio hours of transcription. Speech to text. Where is it? Text to speech. There you go. 5 million characters. Always free. 5 hours per month. Free of speech to text. Fantastic stuff. 1 million requests per month. Per month. Are these services consumed through REST APIs? Some of them, yes. Some of them, no. The Cosmos DB for the first... Where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. First 1,000 request units per second. Provision throughput with 25 gig of storage. Free. If you have 26 gig of storage, there's a fee. But inside those limits, free. You end up getting charged for Cosmos DB, so it's not even worth it. How much are you storing? How much are you using request-wise? And this is only for the first database that you create. You get one of these. Beyond that, you get charged per use. So, what's the question? You think Microsoft should also support other platforms in terms of client SDKs like Flutter? Why? That's somebody else's product. Somebody else's product. Somebody else's tools, technologies. Like, if there was demand for it, hey, we want Flutter to be able to interact with Azure so-and-so, they'd consider it. But Google they have their own needs for that. What about Front Door? I don't think there's a freebie for Front Door. No. Front Door does not have a free service. No. You're not even storing much in Cosmos DB. Then, if it's the second or third database that you've created, you're going to be charged for it, no matter how much you have. Is there a free Fritz offering? I'm right here. Right here. Man, I like the way I look with that, without the beard on there. I look so much younger. My goodness. All right. So, folks were asking about free services. There's the URL that you can go to learn more about those. I will put them in stream notes. I will have those linked down below. Sometime after stream, I'll have them written up, published to the GitHub repository, and you'll be able to check them out. But the big ones that folks were asking about was SQL database. So 250 gig standard zero database with 10 database transaction units for the first 12 months is free. So, but once you get beyond that, it's not free anymore. So, thank you. Yeah, the beard did age me a good 15 years. I look like I was in my 60s. So. Is there a free Fritz offering? For the low price of peering through a pair of Gunner Optics frames. I've had folks say that that they like the way that my eyes look on stream. Hey, I'm flattered, but I need to be able to see. So Azure SQL database is there. The other one was Cosmos. You can run with the right. It's the Postgres APIs in there. I don't think there's a free MySQL. Oh, there you go. 750 hours of flexible server, burstable B1MS instance. I'm not sure. Is that basic one managed server? 32 gig of storage, 32 gig of backup storage for the first 12 months. You can run free. So there you go. I don't look a day over 35 plus shipping and handling. Some say custom vision Gunner optic frames enhance your viewing pleasure free of charge. I have a pair of custom glasses coming. They're coming, and I'm looking forward to that. It's the Countdown to Infinity song. That just sounds cool. All right, so we talked about free database. How can I get free database to work with? Next item on the agenda is templates. What is app service? How do I choose an app service? Why do I choose app service? There was a great article that I had, and I was reading it on my other machine, and it was app. There was a link that I had through. So I want to make sure I include this link for the overview. But there was a, how do you choose which one? I think it might have been over in here. Pricing, we'll get into that in a minute and talk about that. I don't. No, it was like choose an app service plan or something like that was the article that I was looking at. SharePoint Europe, that wasn't it. Azure hosting option, something like that. Yeah, this is it. I really like this this flow chart. When, how, what can I do with Azure App Service? There's so much you can do with it. And the fact that there's this flow chart to help you choose, I'd really like to see this turned into something codified that a chat client or something can help recommend. Hey, it looks like you're doing, I recommend you use Redshift. I recommend you use a container app. Look, you're building a new application. Migrate is a whole nother ball of wax down here. But if you're building a new application, you don't need full control over it. You don't have an HPC workload. You're not using Spring Boot. And you actually need the application to be running longer than just a few seconds to do something. You're going to end up in app service. If you're migrating an application and you're lift and shifting it in, so it's already sitting inside of a web server somewhere, even if that web server is something that you're building and deploying locally on your machine in development mode. Even if it isn't a COTS, I don't know what COTS is. What do you mean COTS? Even if it can be containerized, consider using Azure App Service. Because we can run containers inside of App Service, which gets you a consistent deployment and framework that you can run on top of out there. Really, really good stuff. Yeah, actually, I did just Clippy. That's right. That would be very Clippy. The Azure Clippy. Hey, looks like you're about to deploy something to the cloud. Might I suggest? Because it has these features, here's what I recommend. It's not a bad idea at all. Because as this list of services grows, changes, shifts, has new capabilities, to have a Clippy type of Azure concierge. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that. To have that type of feature out there that's able to analyze what you're doing, ask questions, follow-up questions. Hey, are you going to grow into? Here's something that you might want to do. All these different cloud options for running applications, it does get confusing about, well, which one do I choose? At least they have names that are descriptive about what they are, right? App service runs applications. Virtual machine is virtual machines out there. Container instances runs containers. Container apps runs containers as an application and then shuts them off when they're done. So there's a lot to it. But I like that idea of the Azure Clippy concierge. For today's practice, do you need to set up an Azure account and an Azure subscription in order to follow the exercise? If you want to actually deploy to Azure, yes. We're going to do some of that, but you don't need to. There are sandboxes available in Microsoft Learn if you want to go and tinker with those. I should grab that information. Azure Sandbox in Microsoft Learn, because there are ways to do that. Thindall did lift and shift way back when, and spending the last couple of too much time. Moving over to more managed servers and lowering the infrastructure as a service sizing continuously. How you doing there, Frackberg? UNESCO wishes container apps support Windows images. Yeah, there's a number of challenges with Windows images. Following the Visual Studio channel again. Thank you. Is WPF still worth it to learn? Asks Pass Hero on Twitch. Does it have a future? Yes, it does have a future. There's now a team dedicated to addressing some of the bugs, some of the pull requests that have been opened on it, and they're working to improve it. Yes, absolutely. I do lean towards .NET MAUI, though, for native applications in the future. Yeah. You don't want to get charged without knowing, so you can set budget limits on your account so you can prevent any kind of charges coming through. You can absolutely do that. Coffee. Oh, it feels good. All right. So, different capabilities that we can do out there, but there was a comment about Azure is somewhere between a web hotel and you manage app services, somewhere between a web hotel versus you manage it everything yourself. So let's talk about this. If heck, let's just open another notepad and we can write some text here. If you think about how you deploy and manage applications out on the internet, right? You can run everything on your own machine, right? That means, right, you control the hardware, you control the operating system, which means you also control all the frameworks that get deployed and managed on that. This is very much like owning your own house, where it's up to you to paint the rooms, put down carpet, manage that carpet, sweep the carpet, mop the floors in the kitchen. You do all the maintenance. You have ultimate control. You have ultimate flexibility. So when you deploy your application to it, you know everything that's going on around it. That's your own machine. It's your own house. You control everything. On the other side of living conditions, of course, is a hotel, right? And right, that's very much like a hosting service. Somebody else is managing the hardware. Somebody else is managing the operating system. And somebody else is telling you what frameworks are out there. Just like in a hotel. Hey, thanks for getting a reservation here at Fritz's Inn. And Mr. Fritz, you can spend the night in room 125. There's a bathroom there. There's a king-size bed. Hope you have a nice night. Okay. When I get to the room, there might be a TV in the room. There might not. It might be a CRT, old-style TV. It might be an HD TV that's only 30 inches across. It might be an 80-inch widescreen TV mounted to the wall that has 4K display and all that, but I don't know that. I've just asked for a room at Fritz's Inn, and I was assigned room 125. I don't have control of the room. I get to bring my suitcase and unpack and spend the night, or however long I've rented the room. But when I'm done, I pack up and leave. Same thing with your web application when you deploy to a hosting service. You put it on the service and you're told this is what types of frameworks are available. This is the type of operating system it is. And we've configured your server with 8 gig of RAM and processor X, Y, and Z. So you have that hosting service that's kind of like a hotel. In between there is app service, which is kind of like an apartment. With app service, you're given a hosting service that specifies, I would like this much processing power. I'd like this much RAM and this much disk space. When you choose that, you're allocated that just like you would be if it was a hotel. And you then can allocate and use that as you see appropriate. Hey, you rented this hotel room and it came with a tub and shower unit. Okay, there you go. Well, actually, I'd like a hotel room with a balcony, and a chair outside so that I can sit outside and enjoy the sunset, whatever. You request those features and they're allocated to you. You need to maintain and manage them a little bit more in the app service configuration, because now you're taking a little bit more control over things. There is a collection of frameworks that are available to you, and you get to choose and use one of several different frameworks that's available natively inside the service. Or you can also deploy inside of a container. Hey, sure, bring your own container, host it here. That means those frameworks that are installed in app service, you don't actually need to abide by them. You can use your own framework if it runs inside a container. This is how we can run things like .NET version previews inside app service, right? So .NET 8 is scheduled to be released in 2023. There's preview versions available, but I can install and run .NET 8 inside of a container and deploy that container into app service, where it doesn't care what kind of framework I'm running inside the container. App service is going to hand off requests to the container, and it's up to you to manage what's going on inside that container that app service is responding with. So you have these 3 different sizing capabilities here for how you manage and deploy your applications. Now, we have your own machine available for Azure. This is Azure Virtual Machines. Okay. App Service is a hosting there's App Service hosting service, App Service Plan, which is that hosting service that you can configure, and a full hosting service. This is more like Azure Static Web Apps, where, hey, here's my application and here's some APIs to run behind it. Go. Okay? So you can do those things and interact. Yes, you can say shut everything down at a certain price. Absolutely. But does it have HBO? .NET support is Disney Plus, so you can watch The Mandalorian. Sad thing is hosting it yourself is always cheaper because it's free, unlike Azure, which is not free, says Andy. There are services, I just showed you a whole page of services that are completely free. Hosting it yourself is free to a point. You still have to pay for your own bandwidth. You still have to pay for the machine to run it on. You still need to maintain the machine and operating system you're running it on. Those are tasks that you need to do. In app service and the hotel hosting model here, somebody else is doing that for you. How much is your time worth? For me as a developer, I don't want to manage the operating system and applying patches and the hardware and, oh gosh, the memory is flaking out. I don't know. I don't want to manage that. Let somebody else do that. As a developer, I just need somewhere for my application to run. You go handle that somewhere else. I'm paying for somebody to manage that. That's okay. That's my choice. If you want to run that yourself, that's okay too. There's folks that really enjoy that. They have the time. They have the expertise to do that. And they don't have a problem if there is a hardware failure managing and handling that themselves. Go for it. That's great. If you can do that, if you can handle that downtime and manage that, bring things back online, or build extra redundancy yourself so that you can bring that, fantastic. That's a cost, that's a time expense that I don't want to deal with. For me as a developer, I want to hand that off to somebody else and just let my application run. If a disk fails, if a drive fails, if a processor isn't isn't behaving properly, if memory isn't responding properly, push it somewhere else on the service and let it keep running. Swap it out later. So lots of options available to you when you choose a service that allows you to scale and use scalable resources like this. So, hotels need built-in laundry machines. Well, that's kind of like DevOps. I need to be able to maintain the stuff that's inside my hotel room, my clothes, my bedding, these things. That's kind of like DevOps or GitHub Actions. So, you host all your stuff for free? Fantastic. Good for you. That's right. I host all kinds of stuff for free on my Synology over here. But folks on the internet cannot access it, and I need to maintain that. I need to put in new drives every 4 or 5 years. I need to handle the RAM that's inside there, so on and so forth. Do application push notifications go through Azure? You can trigger them from Azure, and then they go out on the appropriate services, out to various, right? The various endpoints that'll deploy across to your devices. But Azure has those capabilities. You do need to enter a card when creating an Azure subscription. Yes, there are folks that were creating Azure subscriptions and doing nefarious things with it. Let's just leave it at that. Am I aware that the free Azure App Service only allows up to 10 sites? Yes, I am. Yes. And for some folks, that's plenty. For dev and test websites, that's pretty good. For a simple website, brochureware website that can cache that content, fantastic. Azure Static Web Apps is completely free. Free. Always free. So if you have just a static website, throw it on Azure Static Websites and it runs completely free. A company can't afford Azure. Then how are they managing their applications if they can't afford Azure? Let's see here. If you have a Visual Studio subscription, part of the benefits are $50 to $150 of Azure credit per month. That's right, Andrew. Thank you on Twitch. You're right. Nerdherder came from infrastructure management, never really cared about maintaining servers, but after doing development and a few years of using hosted services, no way I would go back unless it needs to. Yep. So, all right. So that's kind of where appservice fits into this. You can choose the model appropriate for, and all the services are available out there. Choose the model that's appropriate for how you need to build and deploy your application. So how do I build and deploy my application? How do I set up an app service? Let's go over to the Azure portal and let's set something up. And let's take a look at what's available out there, how this appears. And let's stand up a simple ASP.NET application and deploy it. That was create a dashboard. I want to create a service. So I'm going to jump into the box up here, go out to App Services, and create a new one. I've got a bunch of them already out here. This is one way to create them. You can create app services at the command line. You can create them with templates inside of Visual Studio. For me, I am very graphically motivated. When I can see and touch and read what's in front of me, this is easy for me to learn and show you how to build and present and create services on Azure. So I really enjoy using the portal to be able to create and manage services. So, there's options here. Andy, you're wrong. And I can show you. So over here, let's talk about this. You have subscriptions. I have several different subscriptions out there that are available. I'm going to create a new resource group here, and I'm going to call this C# with CSharpFritz. Spell it right there. Really? I've already got one? Fine. I'm creating a new one. Thank you. What's the name that I want to create here? And you can even create one with a database built in. You can create a not just a service hanging out there, but you can create one that has a database attached. And you can choose 2 different sizes here. I don't want to do that just yet. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I was up in here. Create new C# with CSharpFritz. Wow, we're not typing right today. 2. Thank you. Name, let's call this my first deployment with Fritz. Thank you. And now I have my choice of different ways that you can build and deploy. I can deploy code, I can deploy a Docker container, or static web app is here. The other way to do static web apps is actually over here. I have several. And free. Always free. Let's deploy some code. You have several different stacks that you can choose to build and deploy with. You can deploy I don't know why. Oh, that's a header. Okay. I was going to say, why can't I select that? .NET 7, .NET 6. So the short-term support, the long-term support. ASP.NET V8, ASP.NET V3.5. You can use Go, Java, Node, PHP, Python, Ruby. All of these stacks are available on appservice that you can deploy code directly to. It will compile and run natively inside the appservice. And then, of course, where do you want it to run? I'm going to choose .NET 7, and it's going to update and show me, well, here's the regions where I have .NET 7 available. And I can choose which operating system I want. Do you want Linux? Do you want Windows? You don't have to be only Windows. You don't. In fact, I recommend choosing Linux because things run thinner, smaller, a little bit faster on Linux. And it's available all over the world, not just East US, Australia, Canada, Asia, Japan, Korea, Qatar, South Africa, India, Europe, Sweden, the UAE. So figure out what works for you. I'm a big fan of the East US 2 data center. That's close to me here on the East Coast. So I typically put stuff over in there. And that's what I still have out there. Okay. I'm going to create a new Linux plan here. My first Linux plan. So a plan, right? This is a hosting plan. This is equivalent to give me a machine that hosts n number of applications. So I'm defining a plan. It's not necessarily an entire machine. It's not necessarily one instance of an operating system. But you can think about it like that. For load balancing purposes, that's how it can be deployed and managed separately. But think of it like it's a machine, and that's what you're choosing. Pricing plan, there's lots of pricing plans. There's that free one. 60 CPU minutes. Let's start with free. And then do you want it to be redundantly running in multiple regions? Interesting, right? Now we can start to think about As this grows, and I want it running, not just in East US, but I want a copy in Southeast Asia. I want a copy running in Brazil. And I want a copy running in India. Boom. Right? I can deploy and make it redundant across those different regions. Really powerful capability that you have. Do we want to create a GitHub action to automatically deploy and update this? I don't have anything configured at this point, so I'm not going to set that up. Public access is turned on by default, so folks can connect in and use that. So this is a web-facing, internet-facing application. So do you need that? You might not. You might want to be able to set this up with your own firewall, your own network connection to this, so that it's private to your organization. You have that option available to you. Yes, network injection. So monitoring, how are we going to send logging information? Application Insights is the tool that they recommend. I'm not going to turn it on for this. Tags, this is a way for you to be able to search and manage content. This is literally key value, all strings that you pass around so that you can identify content that's running in your Azure subscription. I do have, my blurring is working so that you can't see some of the keys and things that are created there. So go ahead and create that, and it will start building and deploying that first app service. It's not valid. I already have my one app service plan in that region. Oh, fine. Fine. Where'd it go? Right there. We had the emote demo. Oh my gosh. And it's sitting. So I already have one allocated. This is what it looks like. We can tinker with this a little bit since it's already deployed and out here. But nobody's been connecting into it, probably because folks forgot all about it. And I haven't been promoting it. So this is called the CSharp emote demo. And I had a web page connected to this that was using SignalR to put emotes on screen. I don't have that wired up in this UI, I don't think. Oh, no, I do. I think I do have it here. No, I don't. I do. Don't want to tinker with that too much. Yeah, it's been a while since it's run, so it's taking a little bit to start up here. We'll see if that comes up. So your app service runs inside of a resource group, and a resource group is just a way for us to group things together that I use them to group by the same logical system. So I have for ClipTalk, I have a resource group that has all of the Azure services placed inside of it. You get assigned a domain name by default with the Azure websites .net base domain name there, right? Top level domain name. I can change that application name on the left side. I can get custom domains configured and put on here if I need to. But I can see the monitoring of how much processing power is going on. We can see the log stream. We can see the capabilities over here if there's things we want to be able to put onto our application, like SSL certificates. Deployment slots. Well, I want to have a test area just to make sure it works out on Azure before I put it live. This is what deployment slots are. Configuring deployment methods. There's custom domains. Controlling authentication. Who can log into your app? Who's allowed to work with this? You can control all of those things here through this user interface. Let me catch up with chat. I see a bunch of messages have come through here. That model is in. You can use Service Fabric in more cases. You can, but that's the recommendation on the model. What's the spend limit on a Microsoft employee subscription? Not a lot. Not a lot. Service Fabric is definitely capable of many things, but there are other services that are recommended for different ways that folks may want to be doing things. So those are recommendations that were on that model. It's not the end-all, be-all, but for folks that are just trying to get a pointer to, hey, what should I use? It's a starting point. There's, of course, in-depth questions that need to be answered before you would say, you know what, even though it recommended using appservice, maybe I really do want to be over on OpenShift. Or, you know what, a container app makes more sense. There's other things to discover. But at first blush, to understand where these things fit in, it's a nice model to get you started. If there were to be an Azure concierge, a Clippy that recommended things, those additional questions that qualify, well, maybe you want to use Service Fabric even though you're doing some of these other things. That's where that kind of advanced dial-in might happen. But just to get folks started, to reduce the intimidation, I'm okay with this. Let me see what else here. Nope, not self-doxing. Some of this stuff will be shut off later today, absolutely. Configured Azure SQL database, says Michael, and configured appservice to talk to it instead of SQLite. Fantastic. Good luck. Waiting for the CI/CD? Yeah. Why does the instance field have a name x.azurewebsites.net? What if I wanted to provide it? Yep. So this is the default name that is given to applications. That's right. We need to give you a domain name to start. If you want to deploy your own custom domain, it's right here. And there's instructions that will walk you through how to do that. And this is something that we've done on my stream in the past when we wired up the ClipTalk domain name. The free service does not get custom domain names. You need to be in one of these other services in order to get a custom domain name. So, which hosting a service with a dedicated domain name and other capabilities, come on. You're not going to get everything completely free. There is a point you need to pay. How do you deploy a Docker container to Azure? I know you know how to create a Docker container, but you can't figure out how to deploy it. We'll talk about that. Absolutely. Let's put that on my notes here to get into. So, we've seen just a little bit of how this is here. Come on now. Why didn't that... Go ahead and restart that. Give me something. Nothing. What do you got? Show me the logs. Show me what happened here. So, helpful diagnosis area that you can always click into, and it will show you some of the issues here. This is a site that I wasn't expecting to be running out here, and quite frankly, I'm happy to tear it down and throw another one out here. Yeah. Let's tear this down. Web app, come on. Had it over here. Delete that. Yes. Type the name to confirm. Thank you. Yep, delete the app service plan as well, and we'll start up a new one. And there was a question about, well, how do you do this with containers? Let's show how to do that with containers, and I'll show how to do it from Visual Studio as well. So I'm going to start a new Visual Studio over here. We will create a new project. Since this is a .NET focused session, I'm going to create an ASP.NET Core web app. Hang on. ASP.NET. Yeah, with Razor Pages content, we'll start there. My first Azure app. All right. Sure, give me .NET 7, no authentication, and I'm going to turn on Docker here. Run it inside Linux. This is going to give me the template that has the container running out there. Yeah, that's fine. I don't... C# here isn't working. That's okay. And let's put the tabs on the top for today. I'm going to leave this page open. So this, of course, runs and works locally. I could run it with Docker locally. I'm going to run it with HTTPS, just so you see the application running here locally, and we'll tweak and tune this so that you know and see that it's working here locally. Yes, I know. Accept it. There it is. So let's change some of the content of this. Let's change that homepage. Welcome to horse counting for beginners. Horses have 4 legs, 1 face, 1 tail, 2 ears, and 2 eyes. All right, right? Based off of what we were saying earlier. Okay. So I save that, and because I've got hot reload, it updates automatically in my browser. I don't have to go back and forth and do this. Fantastic. That will run inside of a container. We have a Docker file sitting out here with all the instructions about how to build this. Right? So this can run inside of a container here locally. I can change my operation here so that it will build and deploy inside the container with Visual Studio. You don't have to use Visual Studio to do this, but we will generate a container file for you, and you can build and deploy with the container here. There you see it warming up, and Docker is starting to kick in here. There it goes. You see my containers panel here above me. Yes, I know. Self-signed certificate, that's okay. And there it is now running inside of a container. Right? You see the containers panel above me there, and I'll open that up. You can see environment variables that have been passed in, the ports that have been opened and passed through, right? Port 80 inside my container is actually 32769 on my machine, and so on and so forth. I can see the logs, see it running here as we interact with it. So it's running as a container. Now the question that we got was, well, how do you deploy as a container? I want to show you how to publish. So I can right-click on a project here in Solution Explorer, and I can choose Publish. Now this is a nice wizard that'll generate a publish script for you so that you can run as part of your continuous integration processes out of GitHub, Azure DevOps, what have you. I'm going to use this since this is a throwaway demo just to show this is working. I'm going to deploy to Azure. I can put this into a container registry. Think about that. I can create my own private registry, or I can put it into docker.com or any other container registry you might have out there, even your GitHub registry. You, as a GitHub user, have a registry that's private to you that you can use. You can put it in there too. I'm going to deploy to Azure. I'm going to put it into Azure App Service with Linux. If I want to put it in as a container, App Service as a container. Yes, sign me back in. I do have an account. We've been through this before. And now you're going to prompt me for logging in to log in to log in to my thing that I'm logging into for logging into the thing. And I'm not allowed to log into it. Thanks. No, you won't let me log in, so go pound sand. Sorry, that's not an account that's allowed here. Where'd it go here? I should have a sign-on request that came through to my phone. No, I don't. Not yet. There's my authenticator. Yes. And I'm logged in with two-factor authentication. You won't let me sign in. Go away. Pain in my neck. I signed in. Come on. There's my account. You're showing me my account. Why aren't you letting me in? App service container. Somebody clip that. Somebody clip that. Because that's clearly broken. I am on a preview version, so it might have broken somewhere along the way there, but that's clearly broken. You should be able to click and go through and deploy from there, and I'm not going to be able to. And I'm not going to be able to... I didn't want to open that app. That's a different app. Go back. My first Azure app. There it is. Azure. Yep. Azure container with Linux. Yep. Okay. I guess we can't. That was working for me the other day, but I guess not. That's a shame. We can come in the other way, I believe. Over here. I thought we just deleted you. Yeah, okay. Why are we still on that page then? And I wanted to get into function apps today. But I think we're just not quite going to make it. C#. Let's call this CSharpFritz. My first horse counting app. It's going to be a Docker container, Linux. Sure, East US is fine. Nope, give me a new plan. My first plan. No, I don't want premium. Single container, yep. So I need to tell it where I'm putting it. I have an Azure container registry already. It's not in this subscription. Oh, nuts. So you have to put it in one of these. Yeah. So if you put it in a private registry, you need to tell it where that lives. I don't have an Azure Container Registry handy for this. Yeah. That's frustrating. How to deploy to Docker Hub? So you push your container to Docker Hub. Like, right, you're publishing a container to there. When you set up your script, you're publishing to a container registry, Docker Hub. Personal repository, you need to be able to log in, or here's your organization, username and password to be able to log in. And then there's instructions for the container build, and you can turn this into a GitHub action. It will publish out there for you. If I choose other container, yeah, there's the Azure Container Registry. Specify username and password. Well, this really throws me off my script now, because I can't push into the container. Let me come back and I'll try and get container working for next time. If I just go to Azure App Service with Linux, is that going to let me in? No. So if I say code on, that was .NET 7 we chose on Linux, East US. Yep, my first plan. Give me the free one. Is there a GitHub action that we can create and deploy? I don't have it in GitHub. So I will review and create, and it will give me a published profile that I can download and deploy. I just deleted it. I just deleted it. All right, we'll use another subscription then. Fine. Be that way. Call it that. Good, then I'll put it in that. There we go. My first horse counting app. .NET 7 on Linux. My first plan. Put it in the free. Go. You can only have so many free things. How would what work? Be hosted on your private website, or would your domain URL forward to? Your domain URL, it doesn't forward to, it would resolve to this application. So there we go, it's going to create, and the deployment is taking place. Then we can download the published profile and be able to deploy from Visual Studio. Let me see here. Yes, AZ mask is what I'm using to hide that. Transferring credit to a person. I don't know what you're asking. I missed the context. To transfer a subscription between organizations, yeah, you need to get help to do that. That's not something you can do on your own. Can I use the Windows operating system instead? Not even going there. Not going to fiddle with buttons. It doesn't work, period. That's the bug I'm taking back to the team. You used to not be able to move services between resources groups. Right. Now you can do that. That's available for you to interact with. Cool. That says everything's deployed. There's the plan. And now I can go to the resource and we can download the published profile. Downloaded and available for me now. I'll go back over to Visual Studio. And I'm going to choose publish my application. Where's my screen? There we go. Import profile, because I downloaded it. Yep. Where'd it go? It was in my downloads. Right there. There we go. This is what I was expecting to see. So, release configuration, .NET 7, framework dependent. That means there's a framework running on the machine we're deploying to. This is what I was saying about app service manages that for you. Doesn't know anything about the subscription stuff, but that's where it's located. Publish this, but I can also take this publish script and turn it into deployment capabilities. I can turn it into part of it. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Make sure what? Web deploy is configured. No. I think we're just seeing it not respond. Yeah. No, it's not responding at all. Sounds like I got some work to do. My apologies, but I'm out of time. This has happened to me before when configuring app service on stream. No, you can't get you cannot get domain names for free. Right, free Azure service does not allow custom domains. No, you need to pay to do that. There's management and accountability that comes with owning and managing domain names that the only way to ensure that folks don't abuse that means we need to have folks charged. Looking here. The Docker file was generated for us by default. But, yeah, no. There is something on Azure that is blocking me. No, this is not Blazor. No. Thank you, Drayan. Appreciate grabbing the clip there. I'm going to pass that along. Yeah. Live demos and stuff doesn't work. When .NET 8 comes out in November, does that mean you have to delete and start over since the option you chose was .NET 7? No. You can change the configuration if the configuration panel would open there for me. But it's not for some reason. And I don't know why. There is versions you can choose for your stack here. So when you deploy and you're ready to bump to the next one, you can just turn that on for the next version. But web deploy was already configured. Should have been already configured for me here. No, I don't have any storage that I'm mounting. So that should always be available to me with the publish here. Nope, can't do it. I'm gonna have to get back to you with some fixes and some details on that. But we are out of time for now. And we'll see more about deploying to app service and the various things that we can get running on app service. It's frustrating to me because I've got, I've got lots of applications running on it. Restart isn't doing it either. No. So, dealing with the errors is just as informative, yes. But frustrating that on a brand new application, I can't publish, and Visual Studio isn't letting me log in even though I'm logged in. So, I'll get to the bottom of that and I'll have updates for you next time. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. It was good to have these discussions. I'm going to get some fixes and we're going to talk more about what we can do with this next time. We'll get there. My apologies. For those of you that are on YouTube, there is a ton of great videos available for you just over here on the side. Check those out. If you want to see more of what we've done in this series, check out the videos link above and look at that playlist for C# with CSharpFritz. And for those of you that are on Twitch, let's get you connected with somebody else. Let's kick off a raid. Get over to some other content on Twitch. Looking around the horn here, I think we're gonna head over to our friend Tim Bodette, who's working on marketing a game. That's pretty cool stuff. Let's get that set up. We will send you over to Tim. Tim's an independent game developer who's working on building, creating a game, and going through the business of being an independent software developer and what it means to grow an application. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I will be back next Monday. Hopefully I've got some of these app service things fixed. We're going to talk about functions. We're going to talk more about how to configure and deploy with containers. I'll have much, much more for you. There'll be links just below this video on YouTube out to a GitHub repository with links and details about what we talked about here today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I wish you good health and good coding. Take care.